Hello, everyone. Today's upload is a little different than usual. I have actually recorded this story months ago, and I have been debating whether or not to release it. Recently, my family has suffered a loss. We had to say goodbye to our sweet little blue healer named Mixie. And with her loss and us missing her, I figured that this story right now is the best way I can think of to dedicate something to her. So, if this is a little more touchy-feely than you are used to listening to me, well, I'm not going to say that I am sorry. However, I do hope you enjoy this story. Without any further ado, let me present to you The Hairless Ghost. Written by Kit Williamson. Now, it might seem, based on what I have said so far, that all supernatural encounters are frightening terrors that should be avoided at all costs. While it does appear to me after all these years that, in general, that is true, there are some encounters I have had through my life that were both beautiful and wondrous. I have decided to place this story here, so I might perhaps brighten the mood a little before we continue on this journey together. This story is not so much about the phantasms that haunt my nightmares, or the things hidden in the darker corners of the world. This one is about the love of a dog for his master, and the love of a boy for his dog. But before I wax too long, I present to you the tale of the Hairless Ghost. When I was still very little, our family came into possession of a hairless dog we called Rastus. Now, I'll be the first to say that many of his ilk are the ugliest dogs in the world. You can even look it up. Rastus, however, was not one of those dogs. He stood a bit over a meter at the shoulder, and his skin was jet black and smooth, so that from a distance one would have a hard time distinguishing the fact that he did not have fur. He was also gifted with a beautiful white mohawk that crested the length of his head. The greatest singular thing I remember about this particular specimen of the canine breed was his devotion to the young boy that I was, and his desire to protect me. In one instance, he bit my grandfather for the simple act of picking me up. As long as Rastus was around, I knew that I was safe, and that he would go to the ends of the earth to make sure I remained so. But as is the case with young boys and dogs alike, we both aged. He was always a cheerful dog, following me around on my adventures through the forests in both California and Arizona. He was a constant companion to me, and I never even considered what life would be like without him. He got slower over the years, the sands of time taking their slow erosion of his youthful appearance and exuberance. He lost his mohawk over time, but my love for him never lessened because of his advancing years. A few months after we returned from our yearly sojourn to California, the ravages of time became too much for that dear, sweet, noble animal, and he passed on. I was shattered by the loss of my childhood friend and companion. We had other dogs as well, and I loved them dearly, but none of them were Rastus. I felt lost without him and spent many an hour sitting alone, pondering the times and adventures we had. Every day I would ride home on the bus from school, saddened by the thought he would no longer be there to greet me. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, and slowly the pain of his loss began to lessen. I would never forget him, but I had the comfort that he was no longer suffering the pains of age. It was around this time, when the pain had begun to lessen, that I would on occasion catch a dark gray streak racing through the woods as I stared out the bus windows. I never managed to get a direct look at whatever it was racing alongside us, only managing to catch it from the corner of my eye. but when I turned to face the image, it vanished without leaving a single trace. I brought this up to my parents on a few occasions, but they speculated it was either some deer running through the forest or else the imaginative creation of a young boy. I knew they were wrong, but still did not know what I could be seeing. For days on end, I tried to catch the thing racing along with us as I traveled home on the bus, and every time I failed. There was something familiar about the apparition, something comforting that I couldn't explain to myself or my family. This continued for a while until one day, I noticed during one of my walks into nature the same streak racing just ahead of me, just out of clear vision. It remained this way for many days, me wandering the forest as usual and the phantom staying just beyond my vision. That is, until the last day I witnessed the apparition. One day during my travels through the familiar woods, I had wandered deeper than my usual ramblings. I had, and do have, a habit of getting lost in my thoughts while I move. And often, I didn't know exactly where I was, but I always knew the way home. While I sat, taking a break and breathing in the brisk pine-scented air around me, I heard at once a great scream, as if a woman in terror. This caused my muscles to seize up, a tremble racking my body. For in this part of the world, there is only one such animal that makes such a horrible sound. I slowly lifted my head to peer around me, only now noticing the dead deer carcass about 30 meters from where I had taken my rest. With the breeze blowing away from it, I failed to smell the slight odor of decay. The second thing my eyes fell upon were the cougar. It stalked low to the ground, staring at me before emitting another roar of challenge. For those with no experience with cougars, or mountain lions as they are colloquially called, they are large, wild felines. They are known to be territorial, but will generally leave humankind alone if undisturbed. When they feel threatened, however, or when faced with another predator they fear may be trying to steal their kill, they will attack savagely. I quickly averted my eyes to the ground, keeping the cougar in sight through the periphery of my vision, not wanting the beast to consider me looking at it as a challenge. Slowly standing to my feet, I began to back away, remembering that one must never run away from a predator, or else be seen as prey, and be hunted and chased. As I backed up away from the snarling feline, I saw it tense, muscles tightening under its fur, feet digging into the ground as it prepared to leap. I thought at the time that this would be the end of me, as there was no way such a small boy could hope to fight off a mountain lion. I closed my eyes and began to wait for death to come for me, when from the dark woods between myself and the cougar, there erupted a thunderclap of a bark. The sound echoed through the forest, startling my eyes open and causing both myself and the cougar to halt. As my vision cleared, I looked on in amazement. Between myself and death stood the dark silhouette of a dog, one that could only be Rastus. Entirely black and smooth like an ebony statue, the ghost of my hairless dog, for that is the only thing it could be, stood off before the cougar, feet planted firmly, white mohawk glowing in the dim light of the forest. The hair on the back of the cougar rose as it stared at this newcomer, unsure of what to do about it. They stared at each other, a contest of wills to see who would break first, and I sat in awe, not knowing what to do. The phantom dog lowered its forequarters, mouth opening, and emitting another thunderous bark of rage at the cougar that finally broke the moment of stillness that had enveloped us. With a sudden jerk and a start, the cougar fled from us both, the thoughts of its kill left behind in the face of such an otherworldly terror. I fell backwards at this point, the shock taking my legs out from under me, eyes still focused on what could not be. With a turn, the ghost dog turned towards me, brown eyes showing clearly inside the phantom sockets, majestic white mohawk still glowing, a vision of Rastus as he was before age took him. With a short nod of his head, he met my eyes. We sat there for I know not how long, a boy and his dog. united through very strange circumstance. Then he let out a short, warm bark and ran off back into the woods from which he came. I made the long trek home in silence, senses still alert for the return of the cougar, but never caught sight of it, nor heard its terrible cry again. I still did, and to this day do, miss that dog dearly, but have always been amazed at the bravery and tenacity he displayed in not only protecting me while he was alive, but by being my guardian one last time when he was most needed. I never saw him again after that day. No more gray streak chasing me through the forest or following the bus. But I will never forget my dearest friend Rastus, the Hairless Ghost. I hope you enjoyed that story. We'll continue with our usual scary uploads in the near future. For now, like and subscribe if you want to hear more, and stay creepy, my fiends.